All right, we're live.
We're
We're
live.
live. Once again, we're here on a Sunday, 7 p.m. The Black Therapy Show. As I've said before, we do actually have a therapist on the show today. Welcome back, Sharina Billups.
Hey,
Shadira.
Shamira
Welcome.
Billups, thank you so much for returning for our second round. You truly
You're
enjoyed
welcome.
the
Thank
last
you.
time. Everyone enjoyed you, so we had to have you back. I always mess up your name. Today's show, the title of the show is "We All Fit the Description," and that came from a 12-year-old boy that was arrested in Michigan, um, handcuffed, went to take out the trash, and he was arrested by the police because he fit the description of someone that they claim stole a car or was in the process of stealing a car. But we all fit the description, as the title. But we have a couple of hot topics today, and one that I found very, very interesting. Before I go, Tiffany, want to give you a little speech, please?
This is fair use purposes, educational purposes only. This is our views and nobody else's views. We don't own the rights to any of this content.
All right. We're also going to get into Mr. Larry Elder. He's a conservative, a black conservative, and a lot of people refer to him as a coon because he's mostly on the other side of the fence. We have some very interesting videos to show, so I hope you guys stick around. We're going to have fun. We're going to get into it, and most of all, you will learn something. So here's the first video that caught my attention. This white guy is asking question: how would black people survive if white people did not exist?
survive on this planet if white people didn't exist? Now, some people might think of this as a joke, but this is actually a very serious question. There is nowhere on this planet an example of a self-sustaining and successful and thriving black community. I mean, let's take Africa for example. The whole world is constantly providing aid and supporting Africa from all over the world, from America, from Europe, from Russia, from China. All these major self-sustaining countries are constantly providing aid and helping Africa survive. Same thing here in America. We have all these programs like Section 8 housing, welfare, food stamps that help out the black community. So it is a real question. How would black people survive and self-sustain if white people did not exist? How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist? Now, some people might think of this as how would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist?
Please go back and watch the video I'm stitching. Brother did an excellent job breaking it down. It's not only the fact that black people would have been thriving in peace. Black people would have been a lot more happier, a lot more healthier. It is also the fact that this world would have been a far more better place in general for every single freaking race if white people didn't exist. History shows that that question is supposed to be asked the other way around. How would white people survive if black people didn't exist? Because first of all, these people did not even know that they're supposed to bath before, not to even talk about they bath frequently. Now we teach these people how to bathe. And even now, they still come online to tell us proudly how they still don't bathe, but I digress. People where the Black Plague went to them all off the face of the earth during the dark ages, if not be the Moors they go rescue their filthy asses. You know, sometimes I wonder, what would this world look like today if they had just let the Black Plague do whatever the fuck it wanted to do? This is why they say it is not every hungry dog you see on the streets that you carry to your house and go and feed and take care of, because that dog, when it does belly full, if it comes the head of your pikin the next day. That saying that I just paraphrase is what we are seeing playing out in real time. Not be everybody in the year, because some people, as you see them, so they specialize in biting the hands that fed them. These people, after they were helped, what did they do next? They went out and colonized the entire globe. They unalived people in the millions. They stole from them, raped them, enslaved people. We often talk about how colonization affected us as a people, but did you know that colonization also affected our planet? This is an article from The Guardian, and there are many other articles out there that talks about this exact same issue, right? Well, back to this article, how their colonial past altered the eco balance of an entire planet. Even Mother Nature, that has been here since way before us, as resilient as Mother Nature is, she felt colonization. She did not remain the same again after these people were done doing all they did during colonization. And let's not even talk about how there are animals that are almost extinct thanks to these guys and all they were doing to the animals during colonization. They are where they are today because of colonization, and they maintain their position via neo-colonialism. How would we survive? The same way we had been surviving before you mofos came out of them caves. But how would you people survive though, without all our wealth and resources you stole? These people and their greed have held back the entire globe hundreds of years. They made people dormant for like 400 years, talents that were unalived, and the things they could have done we can only imagine.
How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist?
Oh, I know. You know all those towns that y'all burnt down? Yeah, we still have those. You know the generational wealth that was taken from all those families? Yeah, we still have that. We still have our land. More of us will be able to live out our life expectancy. None of the genocides would have happened. Our ancestors' bodies wouldn't be under parking lots. Nature wouldn't have been attacked. The sun wouldn't have been hid from us. Our ancestors' ancient symbols wouldn't be warped into today's nonsense. Our ancestors' tombs wouldn't be dug up because y'all trying to explore shit. Our kids wouldn't have to get raised to learn how to exist in an anti-black world. We wouldn't be getting fed poison or trying to find the most unnatural way to do things. We could just go to the grocery store without having to worry about if we're gonna make it back home. And most importantly, some motherfucking peace. I honestly just fantasize about the day that Yaqub was not fucking born. Yaqub, what?
Oh, say, can you see by the blood in the streets that this place doesn't smile on you, colored child, whose blood built this land with sweat and their hands. But you'll die in this place, and your memory erased. Oh, say, does this truth hold any weight? This is not the land of the free, but the home of the slave.
the nigga in the game, breaking from the chains, helping you grow. The Black Therapy Show. You be in a safe space, dealing with the black trauma. We unpacking and inspecting all our baggage and drama. Cause we gotta unite. No more killing each other. It's time to see a new future for my sisters and brothers. You know, Kevin, Carl, and Tiffany, we're having an epiphany. We'll give you everything you need to handle the enemy. We're giving you empathy. I'm challenging your kidney. The right conversation so we grow exponentially. We built your penitentiaries, we built on the schools. Gave us brainwash education, just making us fools. Hatred was what we got, and it came from love. No more mental illness. I'm tired of strong, Kevin and Tiffany. Now welcome to the Black Therapy Show. Let's go.
Let's go.
What's up, everybody? We getting feedback? Is that
Just
Yeah, we
yes.
got feedback.
hello?
It just started.
Okay,
Hello.
it's gone. All right. I think the feedback's gone. What's up, everybody? Thank you for checking in with us. Today, we have a very special guest, backed by popular demand, Sharena Phillips. Sharena is the CEO of a mental growth and internal healing. Now, you do mental for everyone, right? You're not.
Behavioral health services, therapy. Yes, I work with all sorts of ages. Evaluations are usually done first just to see if it's like a goodness of fit. It's usually like a screening,
Right.
and then go forward from there.
So people come in, they call you, you set up an appointment, they come in and they say, I'm having this issue, and then you decide whether or not you can help this person.
Well, I usually again do the phone screen, so they'll connect with me either through or connect with the practice through email or phone call. I will set up a time and take 10 to 15 minutes to do a phone screen. There's a few questions, usually demographics and general questions about what they need basically from counseling, what their presenting issue is. And if we find that they might need a little bit more just based upon the resources that they're asking about as well. We might even provide them other resources outside of ourselves, because the basic thing is making sure that they receive the service that they're requesting.
Got it. Absolutely. Because, there's a stereotype that Black people don't need therapy. We kind of supposed to be tough and strong. And, especially Black men, we don't need therapy. That stuff is for the other group. That's not for us. But obviously that's not the case, because we
Far from it.
Absolutely.
I'd like to say, honestly, in light of the topic that we're about to discuss, as far as where Black people would be, that has been an idea that has been deeply implanted by Western civilization, because prior to enslavement, we had our own practices that I would honestly count as being therapeutic, in terms of through music and through support in terms of families. Once we came here, as far as enslavement, we were exposed to many traumas or potentially traumatizing situations. So being forced to adapt, you go into survival mode. And then what happens is things such as not trying to separate the family. So be strong. Men don't cry. You're being used. So if you're seen as weak, you're going to be killed. You're going to be threatened. So you better pose as something strong. Suck it up. Don't cry. Don't be strong, because we need to go ahead and hurry up and escape, or we need to live through the situation. You get what you get, and you don't get upset, because that's all you have. So those days where we had Quincy and we had other things to resolve, I even asked people outside of this country, in terms of coming from Africa, they say the level of depression and everything here, people just killing themselves, like that doesn't happen in Africa. It's not like that.
Yeah. So we saw the video where the guy was asking, seriously, this white guy was asking, how would Black people survive if white people did not exist? And he seriously wanted to know the answer to that question. And if you watch the video carefully, you would see that in the video, it showed the comments, and people were saying stuff like, tell the truth, right on. I mean, like, you're telling the truth, speak facts, you're right. A lot of people, of course, all those people were white people asking how would Black people survive if they were not here to Tiffany, you want to
How,
take this?
yeah, I was about to say, how are they going to survive without us? We are the mothers and fathers of civilization. They are only, what, 7,000 years old? We are 1,000,000 years old. They done found bones, Miss Lucy, out there in Africa, older than all of them. How dare they? They need to stop. I don't pay no mind to our children. They're our children. They just mad. They're going through something. But I don't give no attention to him, regardless to what. If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't be here. We made everything. We did everything. All the blood, sweat, tears. We built this country. Are you serious? You need us because your lazy ass didn't want to do it. So don't let that. This,
I know where he's going, but we showed a video last week where it talked about how they systematically tried to keep Black people from getting health care, how they systematically try to keep Black people out of college. Remember, the Reagan administration came out with healthcare was supposed to be free for everyone, but they said if we give it free to everyone, Black people would also get free healthcare. So they came up with a copay, so you have to pay some kind of money because they figured Black people would not have the amount of money to pay to get the healthcare, so we would die out. So
or we didn't want to go, not to cut you off, or we didn't want to go to the hospitals because the hospitals was killing us too, because they wasn't giving us proper services, or they was using us as guinea pigs. So it was a lot going on.
Right. So, but I don't know if these white people do not know that, or if they're just pretending not to know it, or this is exactly why they don't want Black history. They don't want not Black history. They don't want history taught. Because if history is taught the correct way in America, stuff like this would come up.
This is why our family fought for education, so we can be able to read. Remember, they wanted us not to read or write. If we didn't read or write, we don't know what's going on. So now we know how to read and write. Everything is at our fingertips. Let me tell you something. White people documented everything they did to us. Everything. So it's not like we can't go look and see what they did. They tried to remove us through everything. They made it hard for everything that we do.
Yeah, Kevin, your thoughts on how would you survive, brother, if white people didn't exist? Your shows would be empty.
We wouldn't have Kevin. We wouldn't have no light-skinned people.
Comedian Kevin Lee. You know what? The weird thing about that, Carl and panel, is he has a platform where he can get up and say that with a straight face. And the scary thing is he has millions of people that actually think like he does. And these people are your neighbors, your co-workers, people at your church, people at the barbershop, people. I mean, I'm just saying, these people are in our society that think like that, that we interact with day in and day out and just don't know it, and that's crazy. I mean, it's just that many people. It's such nonsense. I mean, it's not even like believable, but people believe it. Like, I don't understand. And I said this in the pre-show. I'll repeat it for our audience now. He could never, ever say that anything negative like that about the Jewish community. We get beat up on so much in the Black community just from people that get on TikTok or any of these social media spots now and just say anything out their mouth, and they do it for likes and clicks, and they're getting them. I mean, there's people that actually liking and clicking this stuff. Racism is so. Last night I watched UFC. I'm a big UFC martial arts watcher, and there was a big fight in Boston Garden last night. The Boston Garden was actually sold out. Carl, you live near Boston, right? Yeah. So the Boston Garden was sold out last night for this UFC championship fight, and there was a Black guy fighting a white guy, and the crowd in the Boston Garden, when this Black guy walked out, who's a world champion, by the way, the guy with the belt around, they all chanted "F you." F you, F you. Like, they all chanted that. So you have, what's the Boston Garden hold? Like 30-something thousand people all at one time chanting F you to this brother as he's walking his way to the ring. I mean, I'm thinking, wow, Black people being booed in Boston. What's new about that? But it was embarrassing to see how disrespected they were to this professional athlete, a man who's worked hard to get to where he's at, who's a young man, who's making a couple $1 million, taking care of, he just bought his mom a house. He was saying he bought his mom a house. So this guy's, doing some things with his money, and here he is getting booed by all these white people at the Boston Garden. And it broke my heart, man. It just made me think, man, we're still in bad shape. We're in bad shape.
You didn't know that? Why you think they don't know this going on?
You don't expect to see it so blatantly now, though, like at a sporting event, where these world-class athletes are competing with each other, in a boxing mixed martial arts tournament that has millions of viewers, and they said that it broke the Garden records last night. So, Boston Garden, one of the most popular arenas in the world, and their numbers were like the best numbers that arena's ever had, according to the CEO. So yeah, I mean, it's a very popular sport, but then to have all those people in that arena, from the Boston surrounding areas, booed his brother, and just chant "F you," and his name is Aljo Sterling. So they just was like, "F you, Sterling." I mean, all 30,000 at one time was just "F you, Sterling" to this guy for the whole fight, and why he was, walking to the ring. It was really sad to see.
He's not the only one. It's many black sports guys that have been disrespected on the field. Jackie Robinson. What's the other guy? God forgive me. The one he didn't even want to sign his signature no more.
Bill Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were very disrespected on the field. So he's not the only one.
Bill Russell was the most famous Boston, but that was back in the 50s and the 60s. It's 2023.
Boston is off the hook.
Yeah, you ain't lying about that. You ain't lying about that.
Shanira, you think white people are in denial, or you think they know but they just don't care? That's always been my question about racism. Is do they know that we know that they're racist and they just don't care, or they think we're hiding it so great, so good that they don't know that we're racist?
I honestly think it's a mixture of both. Mind you, the teaching of history is not as I don't feel, and I'll speak for myself, I don't feel that is implemented as much as the generations grow and go by, because people are so much concentrating on, in terms of the present. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but there's something seriously wrong when you have people of even a certain culture who can't recall things that have helped to bring about certain rights and freedoms that we have now. It's important that we understand our history so it doesn't repeat itself. So not only are our children suffering in terms of ignorance, but you have it where those of the dominant culture, I say dominant culture because honestly, I can't see that as I just say it for statistical purposes. The dominant culture, those children aren't really being taught anything outside of the power that they presently hold, or the privilege that they have, not only through in terms of general history, but also through their own parents' actions. And if their parents ain't coming from nothing in terms of how they've been taught, and their parents' ain't coming from nothing, how they've been taught, it's just going to reoccur. And then you have that BS nonsense that we just watched on TikTok, where people talk out of ignorance, and it's so much mixed in. Some people just really don't know, and they legit think that, oh, poor Black people, because we're giving to them. No, you have dogs that you probably domesticate, but leave those dogs alone. They become wild and loose, but they'll know how to survive and handle their own, and be quick to try to go ahead and do something to them. They'll bite you back and say, leave me alone. The thing is this, what happens is they're coming up, and the thought of, all right, if these people were to become powerful, and I feel this way strongly, you have a lot of people who live in fear of seeing a race that perhaps is not considered to be dominant actually gaining power and knowledge if they see potential. You have a lot of those kind of people hidden in, where they're not so ignorant. They know better. So they try to intentionally push agenda. So their intention becomes dangerous because they plant seeds and they have enough ignorant people listening. You end up with something like what happened on January 6th with the White House.
Right.
A bunch of ignorant folk moving based upon a small idea. I mean, honestly, that really even blew my mind. I'm like, how many stupid people do we have really around? I'm concerned. You're not thinking.
Right.
I put it this way: Trump got 70 million the first year. The first time he ran, he got 75 million. The second time he ran. That right there should answer your question.
Yeah, it tells you a lot.
But right now, we're going to show a video of a 12-year-old kid being arrested and how this does not affect him for the rest of his life. And then I'm going to show a video of a Black conservative, Mr. Larry Elder, and we can contrast the two videos.
When it happened, I was really shocked and frightened about the situation and how it happened.
This morning, 12-year-old Tayshawn Bernard speaking out for the first time after being handcuffed and detained by Lansing, Michigan police while taking out the trash in what authorities are calling a case of mistaken identity.
And right now I'm feeling just the same way, just really shocked how this could have came to this circumstance of what's going on.
A kid bringing out his trash to be dumped.
Cell phone video of the incident seen by millions, sparking outrage and a demand for answers.
I was so mad I didn't want to hear anything.
His father, Michael Bernard, horrified and disgusted.
In this time and era in America, I am scared for anything to happen to my son.
Michael says it all started when he asked his son to take the trash out to the dumpster at their apartment complex last Thursday.
He was taking out his trash, yo.
When the preteen didn't return after being gone for several minutes, the father says he looked outside to find Tayshawn surrounded by police.
I saw police around him, so I dropped what I had in my hand and rushed downstairs, and I said to the police officer, I said, why you have my son in handcuffs? What's the problem?
Tayshawn was released moments later, but visibly shaken, turning his back to officers as his father, seen here visibly upset as well, continuing to chastise officers as a neighbor continues to record.
I'm just washing up my dishes. I said, son, can you take the garbage down?
That's what he did.
You get what I'm saying? And that's a trauma that traumatized my son.
He's still puzzled until now. He asks a question, what have I done?
The Lansing Police Department posted on Facebook, our officers was pursuing a suspect in a string of Kia thefts wearing neon shorts and a white shirt. A different officer was in the area and saw Tayshawn wearing a very similar outfit and put cuffs on him. Attorneys for the boys say Tayshawn did not have on a white shirt.
The shirt that he was wearing was a light gray or a light bluish color shirt. There's no mistaking if you see that shirt.
The department continuing, our hope is we can put this unfortunate case of wrong place, wrong time behind us and continue to represent the community that we serve. And the police chief later posting a separate apology. This morning, the Bernard family wanted accountability and says they are keeping all options on the table, including the possibility of filing a lawsuit.
I want justice for my son. Justice.
That kid is going to be traumatized. I don't care if he lives to be 1,000 years old.
But they just need to sue. They're going to get a lawsuit.
That kid's going to be traumatized.
Has Big Trump showed up yet?
You're talking about trauma, and let me show this video, Mr. Larry.
You say racism is not alive today, but
I didn't say that. You said that.
Okay, what did you say?
Racism is no longer a major problem in America.
Well, let me just ask the crowd, how many in the crowd would say that there's something from their childhood that's still affecting them today in terms of how you behave from your childhood? Anything?
I would say
let's be honest, right?
100%.
100%
Yeah.
correct, right?
Of course.
Okay, so in the case of Black people, if you look at 400 years of abuse.
You're not 400 years old, sir.
No. I said Black people.
You're not 400 years old. Black people.
I'm not saying me. I'm saying Black people.
Nobody Black is 400 years old.
Okay, well, the history of slavery, 400 years old, that's just a piece of it. Had to endure the trauma, and now we're still here today. My point is that you say racism is not alive today, but
I didn't say that. You said that.
Okay, what did you say?
Racism is no longer a major problem in America.
Correct.
It's no longer powerful enough to hold anybody back that's willing to work hard and follow the 4 or 5 things I just now mentioned. I never said racism is gone.
I agree with that, but the effects of racism are still very much alive. The effects, and effects will last generations upon generations.
That's nonsense. 1940, before the Civil Rights Act was passed, before the Voting Rights Act was passed, open housing was passed, 87% of blacks lived below the federally defined level of poverty. 1960, 20 years later, that number had declined to 47%, a 40-point drop from 1940 to 1960, the greatest 20-year period of economic expansion for blacks in American history, before any of the civil rights stuff had happened. The big problem, sir, is the breakdown of the black family. Look at a graph on how much time a black student spends studying every night versus a Hispanic student versus a white student versus an Asian American student. It's night and day. You don't work hard, you don't embrace education, you're going to have a bad output. The question is, why are we having a bad output? And the answer is, unless there's somebody in the home to make sure you have done your homework and you've gone to bed on time and you've been housed and clothed and fed properly, unless you have at least somebody like that in the house, you're toast. And unfortunately, so many black people do not have that. And we ought to be talking about why.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
God bless.
Why you giving to that bullshit?
So, I mean, I don't understand. Okay, I get some of his points. Yes, if you study hard. Yes, if you do this, you do that. Yes, there's things that you have to do to make your life better. But how can you sit there and say that because you're not 400 years old, people that look like you, it shouldn't affect you because it happened 400 years ago? I've had friends that went to Africa and they went to the places where they kept the slaves. And Tiffany went down to, right? She went down
the Carolinas.
And they showed the slave quarters. And they tell me when you walk in there, something comes over you. You know what I mean? Because you know what the people who look like you went through. Something comes over you when you're in those spaces. I mean, when I watch George Floyd die in front of me, to this day, that still bothers me. So how can somebody like Larry, how do people like him not even feel anything? I'm not saying that what he's saying is 100% wrong, because yes, he studied all that, but he feels nothing. Nothing.
I don't think it's not feeling nothing. I don't think he's in it like we're in it. You know,
he's not. He's in displaying. I clearly read this guy. I work with people like that all the time, and that used to be the issue in terms of how people would view me as far as when situations would happen. I take it. He's displaying a lot of emotional intelligence. When he spoke with the individual who was talking about slavery and 400 years, he asked him, "Are you 400 years old?" He didn't say, "Well, you didn't live 400 years ago," but he said that, you know, basically what he said was racism does not exist. Now, as far as that goes, I wouldn't 100% agree. But what that gentleman, when he was speaking with the leftists or whatever, he could have easily said, "No, I am not 400 years old. However, upon reading history and looking at what has happened, the residual impacts, emotionally speaking, and how we progress, yes, there have been many advances, but we are still so much delayed because of the dent that has been put in with our people versus those who have been able to be pushed ahead of us." Okay, we have so many advances in that the leftist he was talking about in the homes, and you know, when you're given opportunity to have people teaching you how to get ahead. If you don't have that, you're basically toast. So why don't they have those in the homes? Well, then we have a systems issue where there are things that are purposely set up that are set up for even more so our people to fail. Why? Because of the residual impact of what has happened 400 plus years ago.
Yeah, he's not thinking on that level. I think he's not thinking, because he has great points. I get it, because I do think that we need to fight harder for our children. We need to be home and make sure we help them with their homework, be a part of the PTA. We need to be more involved instead of fighting one another. But I believe he's not understanding the mental impact of what it has done. And like you said, what the system has done to us for us to fail. Every time we try to get to a top, we'll fall, or we got to do this. So as soon as we pay a bill, another bill comes. It's like every time you turn around, it's something new or something that's holding us down. So I don't think he gets that aspect of it. But
he's not also fighting in that piece either, because again, with him, if I was up there versus him, I'd probably speak more on the emotional impact as far as trauma. He's speaking numbers,
right?
Numbers,
right?
Speaking percentages,
right. Not emotionally connected.
And that right there, that's a lot, because and this is why it's so important as far as how people are addressed from the ground up, meaning from the time they enter this world into the time they leave, because the mental impact is strong. Yes, if you have someone in the home, that would be great. All that stuff would be great. But again, we've come from a time of being strong to being broken down a lot and having to rebuild because of the brokenness, but also fight for our rights to be able to have the right to rebuild, not having things separate us anymore or break us down. So we were fighting double just to make maybe a quarter or a half of that.
But like Kevin said, if he was talking to a Jewish person, do you think he would have said to them, "You weren't at the Holocaust. Why are you still affected by, Auschwitz?" And I mean, you think he would said that to a Jewish person?
He can't even speak from a Jewish point of view.
Right.
So I'd probably be very precautious with that one. Second, dollars drive decisions. Yes, in terms of the Holocaust, that happened outside of the U.S. It's happened,
right.
But
I mean, Jews in the U.S. Jews in the U.S. still, have feelings. They, you can tell they still hurt that their ancestors, So why can't Black people still hurt or have feelings? For
let me dig into Larry Elder for a second. So Larry Elder, who primarily works for Fox News, right? Well, he did anyway. I think they got rid of him after a while. So he's 71 years old. For a 71-year-old Black man to be on this planet for 71 years and say racism doesn't exist is absolutely ridiculous. He's 71.
No, he didn't say. He said it do exist, but he says it doesn't affect us like that.
Well, of course it does.
We know it does, but he thinks that it does is not. It shouldn't affect us. It shouldn't be affecting us. That's what he's feeling.
That's because his world is not around Black people.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He's not connected. He
first
don't know.
of all, he's married to a white woman.
He's married to a Becky.
Yeah, he's married to a white woman.
His handler, because I call them handlers.
So yeah, but so is Candace Owens, married to a white guy.
Handler.
The other girl on Fox News with the green eyes, she's married to a white man, and it's a pattern. And I hate to bring up the pattern because I've said on the show 1,000 times, I'm not against interracial dating. You don't know who you're gonna love, but I'm just saying it's that pattern that you see from folks like Larry Elder. They never have a sister on their shoulder, or Candace Owens, for example, wouldn't have a Black man on her arm and speak like that. They all have, other people on their arms when they have these bad views towards their own race. Like they never say anything nice about Black people. Like you can't even find like a clip of Candace Owens saying anything nice about Black people. It's always something negative. Larry Elder is always something negative. There's fathers missing out of the white community too. So I don't know why we get beat up on so much, like fathers aren't there. I think that's with every race.
But he's saying that Black and he said it in one of the videos that I have. But he's saying we commit more crime. We commit the most crime, and we're most in.
That's debatable.
Yeah, because white people do the shooting in the schools.
That's debatable.
So it's a difference. It's a difference. And why should? Go ahead, Kev. I
think that's debatable. I don't buy into. We commit more crimes. I think.
Yeah,
I think laws were designed to make it easier for us to be incarcerated. You know, like crack cocaine or locking brothers up when. At the time in the 80s, the white man's choice of drug was cocaine. You weren't getting the same amount of time in jail. So if you got caught with a bunch of cocaine, you got a slap on the wrist compared to getting caught with a little bag of rock or something of crack, and you end up going to jail for 10 years. And now that father's out of the house. You're right, because he's in jail for some crack cocaine. But then the white guy who had a bunch of cocaine in a plastic bag under the car seat of his car, get a slap on the wrist. So yeah, it was things like that incarcerated Black people more. But that's why I forgot the author's name who wrote the book, The New Jim Crow. If you ever read that book, The New Jim Crow, it's a very deep book and it points that out. So yeah, I mean, Black people in the 50s were getting arrested in the South for jaywalking.
Right.
Because they wanted to get you into the system so you can for free labor, because the whole thing with Jim Crow was, okay, they ended slavery, but now we still have to get these people to work for free. So we will put them in prison, and that's where the chain gangs came from. That's where the chain gangs come from and stuff like that. So yeah. I mean, so it was a double standard, But I don't buy into the whole thing that Black people are more violent. I mean, the majority of serial killers are white men. I mean, white men been raping Black women since the beginning of time. Since they brought us here, Black men weren't raping white women.
But they got that stereotype on Black men.
Yeah, exactly. They're raping Black women. I mean, yeah, the crimes. Look at the high school shootings and all the stuff that goes on in America. All the crimes that happen in America. I was just telling Patricia the other day, we're watching the news the other night, and we saw the 6-year-old girl got killed over in Ukraine. Somebody, they dropped a bomb on the cafe she was at or something like that. But it's like, we would never do that.
That's not our type of crime. Our crime is to eat. Our crime is to survive. But you understand what I'm saying?
Our people have never dropped bombs on children.
No, that's
not even white children. Not even during the time of like, you never seen a Black man plant a bomb in a white church and blow up people praying on Sunday. It just doesn't happen throughout the history. So to call us more criminals, and Larry Elder should know better. I know he knows better, but he has a lifestyle he has to maintain, and that lifestyle of working for television shows like Fox News and pay him a pretty good salary. All these people make money to come on these TV shows and say these things. Everybody, they don't go in there for free and say what Larry Elder says. He gets paid for saying that, and he's an author. He wrote a book. He writes books that sells millions of copies, right? And who you think buy those books? Nobody on this panel has a Larry Elder book, right?
He's a bittersweet, because I hear some stuff from him and I'll be like, he's ridiculous, and then you'll hear some stuff like, yeah, he has some points on that. So he's a back and forth. But like you said, I don't know. I know they said he's running for president. I just saw him on the Breakfast Club, and he went in on Charlemagne about Biden, saying you not Black if you don't vote for me. Now that was a good one, because I felt insulted when he said it. Like, are you serious? We wake up every day. We can't take this Black skin off.
But
you understand, to vote for your ass.
If you're Black, you should vote for me.
Yeah.
But I took that with a grain of salt. I thought he was trying to be funny.
You took it with a grain of salt. I took it kind of disrespectful with his salty ass. Nobody asked him to tell. He out of his mind.
I think he was trying to say, if you look at Trump and you look at me, why would you?
Thank you, Carl. I think what he was saying was, I'm the lesser of two evils.
Yes.
I think that's what all he was trying to say was, look at Trump's history. Here's a guy who came on the escalator and started his campaign calling Mexicans rapists and murderers. And he also launched his campaign by saying the first black president wasn't black and needs to show his birth certificate. So, then he wouldn't hang Barack. Every president hangs the other president's portrait in the White House. Trump never hung Obama's portrait in the White House, so he's been doing so much. And don't even go back to the Central Park 5 and then the housing discrimination stuff in New York City over the years. So Trump has a major history.
Shanara's face is speaking loud.
All right, well, let's hear what she has to say.
Go ahead, Shanara.
Is it honest?
That's
why we're here. That's why we're here.
I honestly, I wouldn't, with Biden having said that statement, personally, like I took it as a joke, but in light of thinking about other people, I'm like, there might be some who are like, okay, what are you trying to say? I took it as a joke though, because I'm like, you're not black and being vote for me. But he being the color he was, now maybe it was like Obama saying that you're not black if you ain't voting for me. It probably was taken more as a ha because of perception. I think with Biden, he's gotten a little, chummy, and he's trying to find something relative. Almost the same way when you have a white person who goes in a club and maybe he's pumping music and they feeling a jam, but then some words come out their mouth that really is not okay for a white person to say, and the music stops.
DMX like, comes on, my niggas.
And then all of a sudden he's like,
that's what I felt like. He said nigga or something.
Yeah. But going back to Larry Elder, as far as his statements, like the way he puts things out again is just, he's very much talking basic like numbers. I wouldn't argue with, okay, what's going on in the home, because he's completely right. What's happening in the home? And yes, many years of damage have impacted us and added to generational trauma. I feel that Larry Elder would probably be one of those people then saying that if that's the case, then it's not like there aren't services being provided where you can get help to heal. Why aren't you going to find a way to heal? Mm-hmm. And this is where we kind of go back into that loop where I would probably agree with Larry Elder, where our people, we kind of, we fight and we want our rights, and we've been wronged in so many ways. But because of so much damage and the decisions that we make in terms of the way we manage our care, if we don't take care to address those things, we end up setting the next generation up for failure as well. So when you've been raised in a home that has been shortchanged, where mommy and daddy weren't always there, when you've seen things that may have impacted your view and make you feel like you're limited, but why be so limited in a world that has so much access? You have to ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we act like on the, I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry. I just, go ahead.
I'll let you go ahead.
I'm sorry, I get so frustrated on this show, and Carl can tell you, because I get frustrated when we act like we're not successful. We are very, of all the, all the shit we've been through over the last 40 years, in 2023, Black people in America are not doing as bad as everybody think we're doing.
Right.
We are doctors, we are lawyers, we're police officers, we're judges, we're dentists. We own businesses of all kinds. We're millionaires, we're billionaires, we're homeowners. Larry Elder, who makes a lot of money as a Black man in this country, very successful in his own right. probably live in an upscale neighborhood, I'm sure, right? How can he look in the mirror and think just because there's a ghetto 4 miles down the road where Black people are struggling that most Black Americans aren't doing well? Because there's plenty of ghettos or poor neighborhoods where white people live. I've driven through some neighborhoods in West Virginia and Alabama and other places that I travel this country and seen some really, white people living in some rundown trailer parks and whatever and doing bad and stuff like that. So why do we act like we're not successful when we are successful?
I think what we're doing is we are doing good, but we could be doing so much better.
Oh, I was about to say, yeah, you're doing good. Yeah, God is good. I woke up, but it's hard out here.
It's hard for me too, Tiff.
Sure.
I work my ass off at my craft, and everybody on this panel probably work their ass off. But I'm just saying,
like a commercial on BET was $1,500, $1,500 per minute or whatever, or for 20. Whatever, it was $1,500, but for the same commercial, MTV was getting 20,000 or something like that.
Yep,
it was just
I know
crazy.
all about that.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying, but
then we had a CEO
because they gave us a crumb. And
but we had a CEO. Bob Johnson was a CEO of BET, right? And Bob Johnson was in a position to pay the talent very well, and he didn't. You know how I know that? Because I was one of the talent on BET. I did the TV show Comic View 5 times. I won't even tell you what my check was. It was embarrassing. But, D.L. Hughley called out Bob Johnson back in the 90s for paying all the comedians that BS money he was paying us. And then he got banned from BET for life. That's why you never see D.L. Hughley on any BET shows. He's been lifetime banned. And when Bob Johnson left the company, Barbara Lee took over. Then it comes out that Barbara Lee was having an affair with Bob Johnson. So how come D.L. Hughley ain't back on? Bob Johnson's gone. How come D.L. Hughley's not back on BT? That's because she had some sort of underground thing going on with Bob Johnson. So yeah, my point is when sometimes we're in these positions and we don't take care of our own people.
Yes, I was about to say that too. You saying
so
that
Bob Johnson's a billionaire and could have paid the talent very well, but he decided to add extra billions to his pocketbook and pay the talent on BET in the 90s. The only person that made money on BET in the 90s was Donnie Simpson, and he didn't even make that much money. He made most of his money through his radio show, but he was paid peanuts in a sense for what other hosts were making on other TV shows at the time. Video Soul, compared to somebody on MTV, Carson Daly, or one of those guys, they were making twice as much money or something like that. So my point is, when we get in a position to take care of each other, sometimes we don't. So you can't blame the white man for everything.
But you hear my point, though. Yeah, we are doing well, but we should be doing so much better.
Oh yeah,
we should be doing way better.
Doing so much better, especially in healthcare. We need help in healthcare.
So we are grateful for what we have, but if I'm supposed to make $1 million and you pay me $500,000, should I go, oh, thank you so much and be grateful, or should I say, hey, I'm worth $1 million? Yeah, I'm doing well, but I still got to say something. I still got to let you know.
Oh, I'm not saying that we're out of the water. I'm just saying that we can't come on this show every week and act like.
Right.
It's the end of the world because, we are a thriving, resilient, successful people. Even if you're a nurse, you're a nurse or whatever you do for a living. I'm just saying, people are still struggling, but a lot of people that struggle are struggling because some people live beyond their means too, right? It's not always.
There's a percentage that
you make $100,000. You make $100,000 a year. But you living like you make $300,000 a year, yeah, you're gonna have some bills on your back, right?
I guess it's like
you got people,
the numbers don't line up.
Yeah, you got people that live in the projects that is buying BMWs, knowing damn well they need garages.
Right. But white people are doing bad. Hispanic people are doing bad. Larry Elder act like we're not on that level though when he says that. Like, there are more successful Black people than successful Hispanic people in this country.
Well, the thing is that I think again it comes to platform in terms of platform and privilege as well. Because I mean, honestly, I do feel that indeed, as far as knowledge goes and all sorts of understanding of systems, being able to work in my craft, undoubtedly, I feel that I'm very successful. I know
Yes.
I'm an intelligent young woman. I know I have so much potential. I know I have a lot of worth. The issue is that as much as I have or another Black talent may have, you still have it where there's so much being thrown against, and that's where the issue comes in, the mindset. Now, in spite of, I'm determined to push, but I see things all the time where things are set up for minorities to be a little bit behind, and it becomes the more successful you become, the more kind of hidden it becomes, because it becomes a little bit more challenging to try to hide behind rules and regulations to make an excuse for why somebody who's doing X amount of work can't get the same amount as another person who's doing maybe the same amount of work or less. Things are set up. So that's where it comes to advocacy. But then you have intimidation that tries to set in, where they try to shut the mouths of those, especially the ones who know better, know where they should be at. They try to set things up so that they're not in the place of even being able to really speak. So absolutely, we are a successful people. And that's why we survived so long, because we've been able to find creative ways to pass on our skill set, to pass on our information, to pass on our history from what we learned in the fields and in our own homes prior to experiences, everything. And we've been able to pass that on, and it's been taken. People with remedies now and coming up with, we knew about that through natural resources. So they take and then they try to intimidate to make it seem like it's not what it seems. It's not really from them. Okay, they're weaker people. And the thing is that when people don't read or when people don't look into stuff, it's just they become hidden from that, and then they take the word of whoever it is that seems to be smart versus going for themselves. Those
having a mind of their own.
Light, but great minds think for themselves.
Right.
Honestly speaking. So Larry Elder, he has a platform, and whether he's doing this for being because he's being set up to do it or whatever case may be, the thing is that he's asking a lot of, I've heard him on this one ask a lot of questions. Now, I don't know him in terms of like fully history, but from what I've seen, it seems like he asks a lot of questions like, okay, were you living 400 years ago? Or we got to ask the question of what's going on in the home. He's asking reasonable questions. The way I feel about those questions versus what is factual, not letting on more of what's factual. And then that's where I would dig into, okay, let's make this a discussion and not a whole debate. It shouldn't be. It should be something where, okay, let's look at how our people can advance. And that's where the support comes in, because sometimes we don't feel like we have the strength to do it. And I'm speaking from my own experience, talking to individuals who are saying, or coming from trauma backgrounds or whatever. And I speak to them and I show empathy and talk with them with it. But at a certain point in time, when that issue is not present with you, but is affecting you mentally, at one point in time, you're going to ask yourself, when am I going to understand that I don't have to be victimized by this anymore if I have the ability to not be victimized by it anymore?
I went to school real quick. Let me say this real quick. I went to school. First of all, I push back on the father in the home thing. I don't think that, I mean, first of all, there's so many successful Black people in this country that didn't have fathers in the home. So I got to push back on that. There's lots of successful Black people that didn't have fathers in the home. Now, we know why the fathers were taken out the home, because they were taken out the home to derail that success, but it doesn't always work that way, right? We have so many successful Black men who didn't grow up, and women who didn't grow up with their fathers in the home. And Dick Gregory, my boy Dick Gregory, man. Dick Gregory also pushed back. He said, we speak of fathers in the home. Gregory said Hitler had both parents, and Jeffrey Dahmer had both parents. You know, so there you go. Jeffrey Dahmer had both father and a mother, and Hitler had a father and a mother. He grew up in a home with both parents, and look how he turned out. So I don't.
So we're talking about what's going on in the home. It doesn't even mean family dynamic like that. I mean, you can have a one-parent home and it does excellent. I know plenty of single parents who are doing a phenomenal job because of the push. But the question that Larry Elder was asking was, what's going on in the home? He said nothing about family dynamic, except for in the beginning when he was talking about having a person to be present to help you out. Now, the thing is this, but in communities, there are people who provide as mentors. You got grandmas and grandpas. You got big cousins. You got even friends of the family who decide to take on. They say it takes a village to raise a child. What is breaking the village? Why aren't we adding on? What's happening where we can't do that thing? What is stopping us? What's stopping so many people in the home?
All right, let me show
mental
this
health.
Being taught.
It's mental health.
Let me show this video. This video, I think this was probably 50 years ago.
We've been misled by our leadership, for instance, that think that we can consume our way into equality and sees equality as an equality of materials. If I have the same car as a white person, if I have the same house as a white person, or a similar job, then I'm equal. But you cannot consume yourself into equality. You must produce yourself into equality, and you move into equality and beyond by productive thinking. Because as long as you're consuming knowledge or you're consuming materials, the guy who is giving it to you or selling it to you is producing at the same time, which means that you never catch up with him because he's always 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. To a good extent, many of our students go into schools, college as well as secondary levels, consuming, and their minds are not being developed to produce the true means by which they will accomplish equality. Everything else is sham.
If we want black people to get on board with a truly global Pan-African liberation struggle, we have to give them something to be proud of. The most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said we have to sell black people back to themselves. We have to make them proud to be black, and that begins with economics and education. Until we can hire black men, until we can hire black women, until we can provide an economic opportunity for members of our community, they'll never be loyal to us. And that's why we have more sellouts, more traitors, more Negropeans, more snow bunny lovers than any other race, because we are the least likely to be able to provide an opportunity for our own people. Chinese kids can get a job from the Chinese community. Arabs can get a job from the Arab community. Latinos can get a job from the Latino community. How many black kids in Miami who need an after-school job can come and get one from black people? And then you got the black church, the biggest exploiter of the black community, taking in billions of dollars a year. Billions! Y'all got mega churches in Miami. Yeah. How many black men these mega churches putting to work? How many single mothers these mega churches in Miami putting to work? Are any of these mega churches fighting against mass incarceration, miseducation, gentrification, police genocide, or access to wealth? None of them. You can't find a church in America that's at the front line of fighting for better schools, against police brutality, against economic apartheid, against miseducation and mass incarceration. How can you claim to be a servant of the Lord? How can you claim to be a man of God, but you okay with your people living in hell? Black people living in hell. Black people living in hell, catching hell, living in hell, and the pastor who's supposed to be an agent of the Lord is absolutely comfortable with you living in hell.
Let me jump in here and say this, and I've said this on this show many times, and I know Kevin says that we are doing well, black people are doing well. I just don't think we have anything to show. I think we should have more to show for people who are doing so well. I don't think, like Dr. Umar just said, where are the big black corporations hiring thousands of black people? I think we have what it takes to do that. For some reason, we're just not doing it. Yeah, we have wealth and all that stuff. We have black millionaires, we have black billionaires, but they're not using that wealth to employ the black people.
Can I say something on that?
Yeah.
I agree with Dr. Umar. That's his name, right?
Umar Johnson.
As far as but I wouldn't say that there's no black churches doing that or there's nobody handling that. First off, I know a few black churches who are doing their best in terms of pushing programs and trying to create opportunities for minorities as far as building up and helping out in terms of economic wellness, education, and discussing law, connecting with mayors of cities, whatever the case may be. I know pastors who actually work, and I know them for a while, they actually work and they run ministry, but they also have people that they have as teams because they know they can't do it on their own. They can't do it alone. And it's a lot of pushback with that because the thing that Dr. Umar was very spot on with is it's like the dog eat dog mentality where we're talking so much about we want success, but as soon as some of us or one of us try to go and manage that success, you got a lot of people who are looking like, oh, who do they think they are? Or just trying to go on the up and up instead of joining on and seeing, okay, how is it that you're doing that? So I can go ahead and assist or model that because there's so much people trying to be a chief. It's like, it's all chiefs, no Indians, or opposite. There needs to be some kind of structure. And just because you serve doesn't mean that you're lesser than. But so many people are trying to make it to the top, but they don't realize that there's plenty that all of us can eat. But we just got to be able to also humble ourselves enough to be able to work with each other and understand each other's strengths and also understand where it is that we need assistance with. I know, in fact, I just finished a
let me jump in here for a second, and then I'm gonna go to another guest, information man. I honestly think in 2023, I don't know if there is a building out there or there's some kind of, and I've said this before, I don't know if there's some 50-story building that's owned by black people that's hiring thousands of black people. Dr. Umar just said black kids cannot get out of school for summer and look to black people for jobs. Black people cannot. We should be able to look to black people for jobs. Why can't we have that in 2020? Or why aren't we somewhere close to that? Where are the huge corporations? What the fuck are we doing with our money?
You have people that own businesses but do not know how to run businesses. Just like she was just saying something about churches. Yeah, I understand, and that's good that you have a few places that you know. Shout out to them that are giving back to the community. But I have been in mega churches, and the first thing I asked a mega church, because I'm seeing that this can fit almost 5,000 people, some even 10,000 people. Do you have your own supermarkets? None of them said no. Do you have your own schools? None of them have their own schools. Do you have a mental health coach on the premises? Because a lot of people come in here sick, trying to cover up their pain with Jesus. Because Jesus can't, listen, Jesus is good, but some people need help. But they come in there and they come in there sick. So we are not doing enough for our people, like he said. We're not doing enough corporations where we can put the businesses back in. When I went to the Carolinas, all the black-owned businesses had white women working in it. I mean, crystal white. And I'm not saying they don't need jobs, but I didn't understand how I see more white people working in a black-owned store than black people working in a store. That's an issue for me. You understand what I'm saying? Because we can't go in a lot of these stores and work. It's either one black person. It was many white people working in these black-owned businesses in the Carolinas. So yeah, something has to change where instead of us trying to keep our wealth to ourselves, people that are very wealthy, they should help the community. They should do community centers. We need more. We need more mental health. Another thing, walking around here, normalizing dysfunction. You know how many people walking around here, ticky, ticky, boom, boom, going to work every day, not happy, but they have to work because they need to take care of their children. They need to pay their daggone bills, but they're sick. They're hurt. you know. So yeah, we need to work more on mental health. I'm a mental health person, you know.
Right. Information man, I'm gonna go to you with this question, and then you can share your thoughts and whatever. But I would like to know, where is the 50-story building or the 10-story building in America that's employing thousands of Black people? I would like Black people to be able to get up in the morning and say, I got an interview tomorrow at whatever Salima company, and it's owned by Black people. I walk in there, the entire company is 90% Black. The person that interviews me is Black. My second interview is Black. The president of the company is Black. The CEO of the company is Black. The man. Where is that, and why don't we have it? Why, Jesus Christ, why don't we have that in 2023? Why?
Starting at the bottom level, as earlier, like it is starting from the most simplest level. These 5,000-story buildings, all that, these people.
I got the answers. Is a very simple arithmetic. It's a very simple math. What people need to understand when you're talking about Black people in America, the reality is that we do not have generational wealth. This is our problem, and I heard you all say this today. We keep looking at the small minority of Black people that we think or have wealth. There's a difference between being rich and having wealth. The majority of Black people in this country do not have generational wealth. We have a few Negroes that are rich, like athletes and entertainers, and we're also finding out that these entertainers ain't as rich as we think they are. We talked about Billy Porter, talking about he got to put up his house for bankruptcy. When you look at the billionaires, Bob Johnson is one Black man that we like to wrap ourselves around. He sold, if he was that rich, he would have never had to have sold BET in the first place. He sold BET to get the lick from white society's money. So he got rid of BET because he knew long term it wasn't going to be profitable, which is why he told us back in the day why he played those awful videos, because he knew when you had the news program on BET, you had Team Summit, you had a 30-minute news program on BET. He had to get all that got rid of because it wasn't making money. Our people gravitate towards the low-hanging fruit too often. He sold BET, and then we wrap our hands and say, oh, that one Black rich man. Now we got Robert Smith, my frat brother, much respect to him. He's another Black man that we gravitate towards. Oh, he's rich. We only got a handful of Black folks that's rich, not wealthy, maybe wealthy like a Robert Smith. We don't have Rockefellers. We don't have the Rothschilds. These are generational wealth. We keep forgetting that Black people were in shackle slavery. It's like taking a bunny rabbit and saying catch up with the cat that's running at 100 miles an hour. Black people do not have infrastructure because we never were able to build anything for ourselves. We were building to make other people rich. This country was built off the blood and sweat of our ancestors. All your skyscrapers, read books like The Destruction, the Underdevelopment of Africa, right? All these things play a role, Carl. So when you say, where's our skyscrapers? We have never built the infrastructure to have skyscrapers. Look at what just happened to Tyler Perry. He wanted to buy BET, and they don't want to sell it to him. You know why? Because Tyler Perry has been operating as an independent out of Hollywood. He's got a big studio in Atlanta, and if they were to sell him BET and any other media company, he would become what? A conglomerate, right? Yes. And so when you say, why do Black people don't have these things? Well, that's what Tyler Perry's trying to build, an empire. And they're trying to do everything they can to cut them down from building an empire. We forget we're behind enemy lines. Well, come on now. We are behind enemy lines.
That's the point that was being brought up earlier.
And let me jump on this. Larry Elders, who thought he was going to be governor of the state that I live in. Larry Elders is a Negro, if you look at his history, who started as a DJ in LA. He jumped on the talk radio scene because he started realizing that, hey, that's where things are going. And when he came into the talk radio scene, it's because he started talking greasy about black folks. And then white conservatives said, oh, we got us a good Negro here. And then they start peppering him with opportunities. Him and Armstrong Williams, some years back, went to San Francisco to a conservative convention. And what they do is they give these Negroes their talking points, and they say, now, if you say this and you say that, we'll give you book deals, we'll give you TV deals, we'll give you. Armstrong Williams got in trouble and admitted it that he was pushing talking points. If you'll notice, I got to be honest, black conservatives like Larry Elders are used primarily to talk about what's wrong with the black community. They never really are used to talk about other political issues. It's always what's wrong with black America, so that they can be used as shields so that we can't call white folks racist in the Republican Party because it's a black man that's doing all their talking points for them. When you hear Larry Elders give out numbers and talk about what our problems are, you notice he never tells you what he's going to do to solve these problems. He simply talks about the problems, but has no agenda to solve problems. Today on my show, our future is bright, y'all. On my show today, I interviewed a young, 19-year-old black male who goes to the University of Prairie View, A&M University, a engineering student, and they got a whole slot full of black folks that are working there, women and men, in STEM, computer engineering, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering. That school has just opened up and expanded their engineering program. We've got young black people doing the damn thing, but we don't market that. We don't push that. We don't talk about that. We talk about the low-hanging fruit as if that represents all black America when they don't represent all black America. So until black people get out of this attitude that rappers and entertainers and these type of Negroes represent us and focus on the everyday person that you can relate to, we're going to be in this predicament. I'm sorry. Yeah. We are. I think our youth.
Don't apologize.
Thank you, my sister. Our youth do not think like us. See, us old Negroes, we've been worn down by the years and withered down by the years of all of this stuff. The millennials in this Z generation, they don't think like us, and I'm glad they don't, because our thinking is what holds us back at the end of the day. Larry Elders should not be referenced or should not be looked at as some leader so he can write off a few some statistics. And you guys said it today. There are people who grew up in single family situations who are doing well. However, it has been proven documentally that young people actually do better when there's both a male and female parenting in the household. And believe it or not, they say that females do even better when they have real male leadership and fatherhood in the household, particularly. And men stabilize a community and stabilize a family when you have proper men in the community. So what we need to do at the end of the day is that instead of worrying about what the rich black folks are going to do, because some of them are going to do something and some of them really don't give a damn about us, we got to focus on what we need to do. And our first priority is to get our youth. We may not be able to change shit, but we have to change the trajectory of our young people. I have a daughter, so now it's my responsibility to prepare her not to think as a Negro, but to think as an innovative woman.
That's right.
That's what we can do to change this trajectory. Most of us may not be alive to see black skyscrapers. If it's coming from this new generation. It ain't coming from us.
I believe it.
It ain't. Because this younger generation, as I was talking to a young brother today, and he's going to bring a whole bunch of his classmates, These young people are into the technology. They're with it. And that's where it's going to come.
So, like I said, I think the last time we were on the show, I said we're doomed, and you say, no, we're not doomed. But it seems like there's no, what's the solution? Like, how do we, you know what I mean?
The solution, okay, I'll tell you the solution. It's a solution that I'm involved in. The solution is to engage our youth in programs such as mentorship programs, rites of passage programs. We need to covet our youth and then pair them with Black professionals or people who have skilled trades or businesses to can mentor them through their process of desiring a particular occupation or to be a business owner. What we do in my organization, we do in Project Alpha, is that we pair young youth and we follow them from the time they are at elementary school level all the way up to high school and college, and we have scholarship programs. That's one solution that I'm involved in. Then you have 100 Black men. We need Black women organizations at the lower level. I don't believe that we're going to save Negroes that's 50 and 60 and 70 years old that's caught in their ways. The only way we can build is through the youth. Now, Umar Johnson, and I have a lot of criticism for him, said what he said, and I have to admit that he's correct. But he's on this Pan-African stuff. And I'm just being honest with you. Not all of our people in this country are with the Pan-African or are even focusing on that. His whole thing is Pan-African, and you got Black folks in Africa who won't even follow Pan-Africanism. So he's kind of like, on that, and it's all night, it's positive. I get it. But he's wrong. You all said it tonight. Not all Black churches are not doing anything. I think it's the smaller Black churches that's doing something, but it's these mega churches where we're caught up in symbolism of this big old giant church with this loud talking preacher. They're the ones that are not serving our community. It's the small churches that you never hear about that are doing the work. So you can never say anything absolute and say that's what it is. How many of you on the panel are familiar with Afrotech?
I'm not.
Afrotech is a program that started in Oakland, California, where they are working to foster young Black women and males in the idea of getting involved in technology. It's becoming big out here. It's growing. So once again, there's a lot of things that's going on that our people don't know about. It isn't being advertised properly. And that's why we have to use these platforms to blow the horn on what's really going on.
Yeah, let me show you guys this video because this is something that's happening in 2023.
Now we've been reading about this in the news, man. The Fearless Fund.
Fearless Fund.
What? First of all, what is the Fearless Fund, and why is this white man trying to stop the Fearless Fund's motion?
Oh my gosh, the Fearless Fund is the first venture capital fund that is built by women of color for women of color, backed by Bank of America, Ally Bank, MasterCard, Costco, JP Morgan Chase, and a host of other corporations. We invest in CPG, we invest in technology, we've invested in Slutty Vegan, we've invested in Lip Bar, many companies that you guys know. There is an attempt and attack, of course, to stop the work that we are doing because we are creating generational wealth. We are reducing the wealth gap. We are in the business of job creation. That's why there's an attempt to stop it. And we are creating the next billionaires and multimillionaires of women of color entrepreneurs.
There we go. Why is this attack happening, you think, Attorney Benjamin Crump?
Bloom.
Edward Bloom.
Edward Bloom, Charlamagne Envy. You're talking about a front page news story. This guy was the same guy who attacked affirmative action by suing North Carolina and Harvard, saying that they were discriminating against white people, even though less than 2% were getting into Harvard and these Ivy League schools. Now, this guy has attacked these sisters and Black women and women of color. Charlamagne Envy, he said that they are discriminating against white women and white men, even though white men make up over 96% of venture fund money. You think about this. Black women, Hispanic people, Black people, women, all minorities only make up 4%, Charlamagne and Envy. But because they get 4%, he said, oh, You discriminating against white men, even though they got 96% of all the trillions of. You discriminating against white men.
Oh, I mean, it's like what you just said. It seems like no matter what we do, when we do it, how hard, there's always somebody out there who doesn't want to see us succeed. You know what I mean? And they'll do anything. Which is why, and this is the biggest problem I have with people like Larry Elder, who said there's no more racism in America, or there's no more racism stopping you from doing it. What do you, like I've asked this question before, what do you think happened? Those pictures of lynchings that we saw, where are those people today? Or where are their family? You think they just woke up one morning and decided, you know what? We're gonna stop being racist today. What does Larry Elder think happened to those people? Those people didn't just decide today we're not gonna be racist anymore. And obviously we can see they're trying different strategies, because here are these black women trying to start generational wealth to help the black community. And behind the scenes, this guy, what's his Bloom, Edward Bloom? I don't know who he is, but he seems to be some powerful man in that industry. You know what I mean?
But you notice Larry Elder, he never speaks upon it where black people are doing things successfully and there's obstacles being put in their way. You notice that he never talks about the successful stories like that situation.
Yeah, but let me throw this question out though, because and I've heard this. I'm sure you guys have heard this. Like a group of Chinese people would get together. You information man, you were saying that black people, when they get money, they're not thinking. You know what I mean? But it seems like a group of Chinese people would get together. They'll pool their money together, and I've heard this many times. Chinese people do it. Indian, East Asians do it. They'll start a business. When the business starts to make money, they take money from that business, give it to another person, another person, so they can start a business, and they hire, within the family, and then they keep it going like that. Do you think black people try to get that kind of mentality where like I've asked this question before, when the football players are in the locker room and the basketball players in the locker room and all those black baseball players, when they're in the locker room, they literally have billions of dollars standing around. Don't they say to themselves, hey, let's do something for our, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not like they're going to be losing money.
Well, how do you know that's not happening, Carl? Because it's not going to be advertised on ABC. It's not going to be advertised on ESPN. I mean, we know like a superstar like LeBron James employs half of, all the people he grew up with in Akron, Ohio, right? Right. So he's created businesses for these people, and some of his boys he went to school with are now millionaires, and they're doing the same thing. They're hiring people. So it is happening. But we hear about LeBron James because of his star stature. But there's other NBA players that might making $30 million a year that's not as popular as LeBron James that might be doing the same thing. He's just not going to get the same press that a LeBron James get because he's not LeBron James. He's a guy that just makes $30 million a year who plays NBA. There's plenty of those guys out there, brothers, who are doing stuff in the communities that they came up in and trying to do things. It's just not being advertised because a lot of guys, aren't tooting their own horn, that they're doing these things, right? And they're not going to get the press that LeBron James gets because they're not on his stature, level of superstar.
Well, I mean, I think if a group of basketball players decided we're going to start some youth corporation or, something big, I'm sure it'll be in the news somehow.
But that's where that causes the problem, though. Like for example, I think President Obama tried this My Brother's Keeper thing.
Yeah.
And I mean that got some pushback, but I mean I don't know if that program's still going on, but I know it got some pushback.
This is the unfortunate part behind Brother's Keeper, and I'm just kind of keep it real. He started the program to focus on black males, and then what happened is you had some of the ladies who said, well, what about black females? And my thing is that it kind of got derailed because it was this whole and it was our own people who did this, because we get into this whole thing. Well, what about this group when we all need help, right? But
pull
it
each
would have been a
other's
better way.
down.
But let me hear what the sister is saying.
Like, we honestly pull each other down from the inside. All of you are right in one way or another. The thing it narrows down to is mindset. And that's where the biggest attack happens. The thing is that as far as development is concerned, it starts from a core family unit. So yeah, it would, statistically speaking, homes can do better when it's a two-parent home raising, as far as the children coming forward. You wonder why our grandparents, our great-grandparents, or our ancestors were able to have two parents in the home and have like 14 plus kids. It's like, how can you have so many? It was about the mindset and what people were willing to do, and then those who were surrounding. So many times in history, again and again, we've been attacked from the foundation. So ergo, we cannot have the big building, the high successes, raising a lot of people, because people who are smart enough, who are, as we're finding behind enemy lines, those who are working for the enemy, they go and they attack from the depth, from underground. They're not stupid. And then they go feed an agenda, just like in the beginning when that TikTok video was being shown about that white man saying, oh, Black people, where would they be without white folk? He sounded stupid. To a person like me, he sounds really stupid. But for an ignorant one who's coming up and hasn't seen the successes, they might even feed into it themselves. But we have to do our best not only to build up and be successful, but make sure that we're carrying on the next. And then any time that we see the negativity going on, that we don't go and say, you know what, that's why I can't work with them. No, address that brother, address that sister. Find out, okay, what's going on? Because back in the day, that's what we used to do. We see somebody doing something, we go and we address it. Nowadays, it's like, oh, don't say nothing, don't talk about nothing, because we don't want to associate ourselves with that person. Oh, leave them behind because they're not going to do anything. No. Hold accountability. That's the biggest thing.
You know, I'm glad you said that. I have a Jewish friend, and I even saw a video that kind of told me that this was true. If a Jewish person opens a business, even though the prices are going to be a little higher than the stores around, they'll still buy from that Jewish person. But what they'll do, they'll say, listen, we're going to work with you. We're going to help you get your price down. We're going to get you a building with lower rent or whatever, try to find you merchandise that's not as expensive, but they will still buy from him, but they'll work with him to get his price down so they can continue shopping at his store. Why can't we don't have that mindset, right? I mean, the mindset we have, does it still come from slavery, divide and conquer?
Yes. Carl, you're answering your own question. Our mindset is the way it is. Has a lot to do with slavery, Jim Crow, black codes, Reconstruction. Right. Remember, this is what happened to us. Now, let's not forget this history. When black people went into Reconstruction, a lot of people have forgotten this, especially in South Carolina. At one point in time, for I think a short period of few months, there was some positive things happening for black people. Remember, you had some of your first black folks in government in South Carolina. You had black people that were now starting to get land. There was some things that were happening, and then they stopped it. They shut everything down. So when you look at all these riots that happened, these uprises, they were in areas where you had black communities that were thriving. Imagine if those black communities were left alone to thrive, to grow. That would be our skyscrapers. That would be our development, right? If Tulsa, Oklahoma was able to grow and never be touched and messed with, maybe they would have skyscrapers, Carl. Maybe it would have been built up like that. Because if you look at American society, that's how skyscrapers got built, right? It was little box place, little small businesses, and then it grew over time, right? So if black people would have just been left alone to do our own thing, I mean, in California, you've got towns that were destroyed here. Okay. Let's look at, I interviewed the mayor of this black town in Tennessee on my channel, where they were about to move a a electric car business into this community. White folks weren't worried about this little black town until this black town was about to get a boost of money because of this electric car business that was going to move into their community, which was going to be in the billions of dollars. All of a sudden, the neighboring white town said, oh, we need to incorporate you into our town. Wait a minute. What are you guys doing? Because why? They didn't think that black people needed to have that money, didn't want to see them have economic prosperity, right? So white folks said, we're going to stop these Negroes from getting this money by now incorporating their town into our town, take away their power and their charter. I interviewed the vice mayor, and she told me on my channel what they were doing. For weeks, I was campaigning and pushing people to call down there and cause problems, right? That didn't happen in 1960, 1950, 1940. Carl, that happened in 2021. I think it was 21 or 22 when I interviewed her. That was in the 21st century.
Right. Jacksonville
So there's a systematic system to keep black people from wealth when we are trying to engage in the opportunity of wealth. I'm not saying that we can't try to gain wealth, but there are obstacles in our way that's not put in other people's way. When you talk about other ethnic groups, keep this in mind. The Chinese, the Japanese, all these other groups, they were able to keep their language intact, their culture intact. Oh, and guess what? They got a flagship home that they can go back and get some help. Right? So the Chinese come here and they got a nation that they come from that they can go back to and get some damn support. So they got a system that's set in place for them. If you got language, that language and that culture keeps you intact.
Yep.
And black people, I'm going to say something very controversial here and I'll be quiet. I almost believe that desegregation was the worst thing that happened to us, because if you look around America, ain't nobody else desegregated. Chinese have Chinatown. They stayed to themselves. Japanese in San Francisco have Japantown because they got the community stolen from them in the Fillmore area of San Francisco when black people came in there after World War II. And the Japanese were like, we claiming land that belongs to us. Other ethnic groups, as much as we talk about diversity in this country, other ethnic groups sort of segregate themselves to their own people when it's best for them economically. White folks do it. Jewish people do it. Everybody do it. Yeah. The problem with black people is that we have brought into this ideology that we want to be accepted. I said it last time. We want to be accepted by white people. We want to be a part of the system. And other groups don't come over here looking to be accepted by white society. We still want to be accepted. Why? Because we're the only group that was put on slave plantations and told that we were not humans. I end there.
Yeah.
Hey,
And let me. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say Dr. King basically came to that conclusion. Also, Information Man, he has said that he's afraid that he's sent his people into a burning house. Quoting, yeah. So he kind of at the end of his days kind of felt that way too, that he screwed up by getting us to sit on the same bus or fighting for us to go to the same schools or whatever. And he realized he made that mistake because he realized that white people weren't going to change and that it was a mistake.
Which is why we lost the Negro leads and we lost all the businesses that we patronized when black people were the doctors and the lawyers and everything. We decided, we bought into this whole thing about being where white people go, and it destroyed, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just too young to be talking this way, because older people would probably have a different point of view and say, well, no, it was bad for us to be segregated because we weren't getting access to resources. And as Joe Madison always says,
still not getting
access to resources and what else? Responsibilities and all these different things. And maybe, that's the problem. We weren't getting resources. But you know what? Why is it that our black children are being miseducated when we integrated into white society schools, but they weren't miseducated when they were being taught by us? Huh?
And this is the thing. That's where it's so tricky, all of that is right in one way or another. There's no, right now is more so, okay, what's the best answer? Honestly speaking, I don't regret in terms of integration, the way when our ancestors fought and when we had such leaders such as Dr. King going and trying to find some level of equality or access. That's the biggest thing. Yes, we were teaching our own, absolutely. But as far as experiencing like going forward, we still had things in the way. But because of uprising, you have people who we I look at as being allies, also trying to help to push like, okay, listen, this isn't right. Yes, we are smart, we're intelligent, we can push for so much, but then we have it where people were trying to give pushback. Now, this is where I feel that there's been a lot of failure, because you get access to this information, but then it's like, once you take it, you're supposed to treat it like money, like value, to build wealth, investing. People don't invest. They get this knowledge and they let it lie waste, or they don't want to share it. They try to keep it to themselves. They don't allow it to grow. That's the thing that we have to do as a people tenfold, because keeping in mind, just as was brought up before, we've been brought over here and we were broken down before we were built into something else. A few weeks ago, I went to look into my own genealogy. I'm Black. What does that mean? Because I live in this place, but I have ancestors who come from where? And I found out what my history actually is, or what it's comprised of. I found out that, like, honestly, from my genealogy, I'm only 2% considered African American, Black American, as far as my history. But in terms of who I am, I'm just labeled that. We don't know our history, much like other ethnic groups. They know their history. They see it, and they're able to go back to their mothership, their homes, all that. But people come over from Africa and they ponder about, they're looking into that, wow, you Black people went through a lot. They're over here putting us in our own thing because they have their culture. We need to do our best to educate our children and manage culture. The new generations coming up, they affiliate themselves with such negativity in terms of bringing each other down, trying to hurry up and get fast money, and talking about, oh, I don't want to be behind like such and such. But they honestly, from the actions they're taking, they clearly don't understand the richness of our history. Because if they did, they would take their time to be educated and take themselves seriously. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't those who do, but they're like hidden figures. And they need to be like and shown as being examples of what needs to happen for our people. Mm-hmm. But not enough of that is being done, and we continue to tear each other down. I mean, I know that more success exists, but we need to bring it to the forefront, not in terms of bragging, but in terms of seeing something to bring even more hope to those who may not know, or may be ignorant, or may run along the lines of those who are kind of bringing down because they feel like, okay, we need to hurry up and be on top. And understand that it is about a team. It's not about who can get ahead, but the endurance of it. That's what it's about with this whole race of life.
I know sometimes I get, and I know not sometimes, I just get frustrated, and I just feel that we have taken, and I mean, to me, it seems like such an easy fix to me, but then again, I'm not in those spaces.
If it was an easy fix, we would have fixed it long time ago.
I mean, when I say an easy fix, if we, and I know we talk about unity all the time, but Black unity seems to be so hard. You know, I don't.
Well, part of the problem, Carl, all due respect to what you're saying, is that we have to remember that because we have integrated into American society, we have Black people like Larry Elders, who believes that racism is a thing of the past. So the problem with our community is that we're not on the same page. For example, you have Jewish people who are Republican, Democrats, right? Some that are on the radical side, right? But when they get behind their closed doors, they come in one accord and they say, we as Jewish people are going to do whatever is necessary that benefits all Jewish people even if you're a Republican Jew or a Democrat Jew. The problem with black people is that we're so divided by I'm a Muslim, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, I'm a this and that, and we can't get on the same page and agree. Hell, we can't even agree on the fact that we deserve reparations. We got black people that'll tell you on the YouTube streets, yeah, we don't need no money because we're going to spend it all up. I mean, you see how divided we are? We can't even agree on something that benefits us all, no matter what our political views and religious views are. We're so we're so bamboozled by symbolism and our religious practices and our labels and our names that we give ourselves, that other groups, they can see past all of that and see the bigger picture for the group. I think we need to have more group think in terms of what is best for the group, no matter what your religion and political views are. I don't know why, and it frustrates me, why we can't see that sometimes.
Yeah, we need to practice more Black economics, and I think that should be something that we should talk about, in the next show about Claude Anderson, Dr. Claude Anderson, where he mapped out the things that we need to be doing as Black people, especially dealing with Black economics.
Right,
We need to support each other more. We need to stop giving Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Fendi, Prada, and all of them all our goddamn money when they really don't like us anyway. You understand what I'm saying?
Why do we do that?
Because we wear our wealth. We wear our wealth, and they don't understand. We need to
wear
be
face
financial.
value. It's a mindset behind it. Honestly speaking, all right.
Thank you.
Just a little bit sidebar, but right on point. I grew up around just diversity, all diversity, and for a little while I was going to a predominantly white school, and what I noticed about these kids who had nice houses, come from big background, they didn't wear the latest gear, not like that. They weren't going around trying to sport whatever. They wore some ruddy shoes, stuff that's kind of worn out but not bad looking. They did well. Only difference was that it was white, and they had parents who may have had like really nice cars, or maybe they had a Subaru that was just handled. But you go to their house, they have a gorgeous house, living room, dining room, pristine, all of that. Gorgeous. And their parents are professors or whatever the case may be, and they're not trumping around in the latest gear. But us, we have this need to be looking like something because we want to make a name for ourselves. But you haven't even started from the basis in terms of making a name. Why are you so focused on that, trying to buy stuff you can't afford? Your credit done ran up. You can't even borrow, do it in kind of business loaning because your mindset's too busy on what's the latest fad, so that way I won't game, so that people won't go and start talking about me and doing all sorts of crap. Now, the thing is that in these homes, in terms of these kids coming up, and I can say so because I counsel, they're growing up in schools terrified because of the social factor. Because not only will these kids go and make fun, but they'll do stuff intentionally to try to intimidate their own kind at a young age. And they'll push them mentally. It's all a mental game. It's all foundational. And that's why we are so behind. We are well able to accomplish. Look at the pyramids, for goodness sake. Look at the hieroglyphics, all these foundational things for reading and writing, mathematics, things that have been created and maintained, inventions from beautiful Black minds, from minority minds. But in terms of the mindset, it has changed as generations have changed, because it's like we're being geared into thinking this is how you got to do for people to look at you. Now, it's not to say that there's not some kind of truth to it, because I've had to go and make sure to manage my appearance, how I present myself, because representation means a lot. But as far as that goes, I do it according to to where it is I'm at. But I don't go push it where it's like, oh, I gotta buy this, No, that's not important. What's happening with behind the scenes? The people behind the scenes, whether you're talking about music industry or whatever, those who work behind the scenes, they're making the most dough. They doing a lot. Those who create the choreography, who create the songs, all that, they are managing well. It's behind the scenes work that really helps out, but that's where we get crappy because we're over here trying to do a cakewalk. Who's familiar with the cakewalk? Exactly. That's what we're doing.
Is it? Let me ask you a question, sister, because you making some good points here, everybody. Do you? I think Carl, you might have said this a week ago. Do you think that black people are flashy and like to wear our gold and jewelry and our fancy clothes when we have the ability to do so because some of us have grown up poor with holy pants and not having a lot. And so therefore, when you grow up not having a lot and you grow up seeing people who have a lot, have nice cars, have nice homes, and then when we get the opportunity, we really do it to the nines because we are been so used to being poor and looked down on that now we want to show the whole world I have made it now. Yeah. I think black people have this complex where we got to prove to everybody. And white folks, you ain't impressing white folks. You only impressing black people because white folks are like, look at this clown over here.
Yeah, they don't wear that.
We only impressing each other.
They don't wear their wealth on them.
It falls on deaf ears. It's like it's the need to compensate, and that all speaks on self-confidence. Sorry, my son's in the background playing his
it's
stuff.
Okay.
But it all comes down to self-confidence because when you're growing up in an environment where, give me a second, I'm just gonna close this door. Sorry.
No, was it somebody said that last week? That was deep.
It's all about the self-confidence situation. People grow up and they're having this environment that they grown up where it might have been destitute. And they haven't seen wellness. So you get to a place where I'm making a little change, I'm making a little money, okay. And you want to kind of make up for what it is that you saw. But you got to ask yourself in that point, why do I feel the need to go and purchase all these things? What's important? But that's where it's like self-discipline comes in. Because when you acquire too much is given, much is required. The issue is that as soon as some people they go and let it fall right out of their hands, thinking that they're making up for something. Instead of being taught, you wouldn't believe, and probably you wouldn't believe how many people, as much as it's supposed to be common, don't know what a savings checking account is, or they don't even have one.
Right.
They wasn't taught how to put away, how to manage what's necessary, and do things one step at a time. I see kids love the show too. Doing things one step at a time.
Hey. Very nice.
Because they always grew up with less. But understand that it's okay not to show everybody what you have, but you can move silently. The true wealth goes again behind the scenes. But I feel that a lot of people are trying, or many people are trying to like compensate for something because is what is speaking inwardly. Because nobody's going to hear, hey, I made it. Okay, great. And who are you?
I think it's universal. Wherever you find black people in the diaspora, we like the most flashiest people. I don't know, Carl, what you think?
I'm a color person myself, but I feel like that.
But don't that go back to our genes? Because weren't African people flashy people? I mean, back in the day before they were taken into enslavement, they were flashy, right?
I can get it, but today your ass will get robbed. You understand what I'm saying? Like you have to be on point with your money.
The Yoruba Nigerian people, they always the culture itself is very colorful, very bright,
the colors,
a lot of dancing, singing, all of that. That is also us. We have a lot of that in terms of Africa, but here it's been associated with a lot of richness and wealth and such. And what happens is you got these brands that kind of show in a different light, and then they draw and attract us in. See, me, myself, I love color, I love brightness, but I'm not a name brand person. I'm good on that.
I've never been.
I just love feeling good about things and fitting in my own skin. That's what I love. But that's not the case for some in these generations, because they want to do it where I'm marketing. My value is X, Y, and Z. They're too busy concentrating on what everybody else is thinking. I mean, I'll have a whole fashion show in my own room. I'll order from wherever and be happy.
Right.
I don't care. Somebody I'll be like, you stared at me long enough to try to figure out my value. I must be worth something, because you already trying to you from the backside of somebody else's hand.
Tiffany, you're saying?
Damon Dash said his richest friends wear worn out Uptowns.
Boom.
Worn
We're
out
the only
Uptown.
ones that have the
Boom.
freshest Uptown, the freshest shoes, and they got millions in their bank account. They don't
And you
care about
asking your
that
friend
stuff.
for $5, but you over here got $650 pair of shoes on. Oh my
And don't
God.
got no life
That's
insurance.
mortgage. What the
And
heck?
don't got no life insurance. Doing GoFundMes when
Or
people
insurance
die.
for that matter either.
But what my thing is don't they have black designers, right?
Yeah, sweetie, they have many black designers, and that's my forte.
Right.
I know many black designers, and I promote all. If you go in my closet, all of my clothes, if I get something special done, is by black designers only. I do not wear no
But
white
why don't
designers.
rappers
The
wear
rappers
black
wear
designer
their
stuff?
huh?
The rappers that rap about Gucci and all the other, and you know what I mean? Why don't they rap? Why don't they promote the black designers?
Because I think go ahead. This is
Years
her
ago,
real house.
Remember, they wouldn't even let black people in these high-end stores,
Right.
high-end houses, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Fendi.
Right.
It was actually the hip-hop community that started blasting it, and they saw it as marketing. As usual, we always making people money. Okay, you had so many black designers actually copying or doing things better than the designers. You know, doing a Dapper Dan. That's one right there. If y'all know about Dapper Dan, Dapper Dan was dressing all the hip hop artists. He was dressing all the drug dealers, and he was doing his thing. They shut him down mad time. So it is a lot of black designers out there, but not a lot of people support black designers, and they should be ashamed of themselves, especially if you're a black person. You know, you need to support more us, but people like to support the slave master.
But
Yeah.
fashion in general, if you look at fashion in America in particular, in the whole world, but particularly in America, most of the fashion that you see was stolen, borrowed, ripped off of what black people are doing. Everything in our fashionist society is based on what's happening in the urban environment. They're watching the kids, and that's where they're getting their cues. When you look at shoes, sneakers, guess what made Michael Jordan, Adidas, Popular, Pumas? It was, I remember, because when back in the day I was a break dancer, it was the rappers and the kids in the streets that made these brands popular. Nobody was talking about Adidas like that until the kids made it popular. So black people, you can make the argument that we have been making white America who own these products very wealthy in our free advertisement. I can remember as a kid coming up when I would hear my mother's girlfriends rage about what's the Louis Vuitton. Nobody was hyping it up like that. Black people have done more to hype up Louis Vuitton than anybody, and y'all haven't even gotten a red cent in advertisement.
And it's so because
Matter of fact, I'm surprised they haven't had a black spokesperson for the damn Louis Vuitton.
Fenty and Rihanna's brand is owned half by Louis Vuitton, Hennessy. I think Louis Vuitton and Hennessy, they run in the same bracket. So they own half of them, regardless to what. We always got some type of white handlers that is handling our business. We never doing our stuff on our own.
Right, but this is the problem this is why I got to go with this. I got to go once again with the generation. I'm talking about with the older generation. This is why you know that the older generation of black people, we have a lot of self-hate for ourselves. Why is it that we will advertise and promote the products of white designers, but when black people go into business and have a product, we always like, well, I got to see first. Why is it that we don't promote our own stuff?
Because their water is colder.
Because Dapper Dan, as you just spoke of, my sister, Dapper Dan should be a billionaire in fashion because of what he did dressing the rappers and most of our black entertainers. He was dressing black folks when white America wouldn't dress your black ass. So think about it. he should really be the fashion man, technically, because they've been stealing his style all these years. Let's keep it real. All of us on this panel, Carl, you're Caribbean. You know damn well that black people from Africa, all over the diaspora of the world that have come to this country, have been ripping off our style since the very beginning. They've been ripping off your people's style in the Caribbean. They've been ripping off black people's style in Africa. Everything we do, our style has been stolen. Look. Remember, who was the designer who made the skull cap? Black men have been wearing the wave caps on their head, and then the white boy took the idea. What was it? Who's that guy? He took the idea and made the skull caps. That black men had already invented the damn thing, but didn't put it into market.
They didn't patent it.
Who was the guy that came up with that? Y'all, that little hat, the little. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but going, it's like we just don't support each other.
We don't.
I have no words. I don't know what to say. I don't know. After seeing how we suffer, we see our black men getting shot by the police. We see black men being disrespected, and for some reason, that doesn't say to us, "Hey, you guys get together and just, you know what I mean, unite somehow." Like everyone else can unite, and I know the argument is because of slavery.
Yeah.
Lynch letter, they were told to keep slaves in check, put the black slave against the white. Put the light-skinned slave against dark-skinned slave. Get the male slave to go against the female slave, and that's how you don't have to beat them. You don't have to do anything.
Wow, man, I tell you,
get them
It's
to fight
still
against-
instilled.
and it's still to this day in 2023. It seems like it's still filtering down. And we're still doing the same thing. Like we just don't need to love each other as much as other people do.
But a change is gonna come because that Montgomery brawl was the best.
Carl, I think that part of the problem, I'm going to say this again. I think baby boomers, my generation, Gen Xers, and older generations, we're the ones that I think have a lot of the mental health problems around these issues that we can't get out. I do not think that the millennials and the Z generation that's coming up that my daughter's a part of, I don't think they have these type of hangups, mainly because they go to school with different ethnic groups. And so the way they see the world is very different than the way we may see the world. And so I think our generation, I got to be honest, we're the ones who have the biggest hangups, and we actually in some ways have failed our youth. Because we haven't really, as individual parents on this panel, we probably are doing things for our kids, having life insurance policies and what have you as individuals on here. But in general, as a generation, cross generation, we haven't really left anything for our kids in terms of a foundation for them to continue to build off of. I got to be honest, the baby boomers didn't leave much for my generation. In terms of physical infrastructure, when you talk about businesses and skyscrapers, a lot of us, we didn't have it. We didn't get anything left because why? The older generation was struggling to keep food on the table for our asses. And then we're now inheriting this mess. And then we're struggling to make sure for our kids. So I think that's why I don't believe in the gloom and doom for the future, but maybe there's gloom and doom for our generation because we're mentally hampered.
Listen,
Say this.
Resilient. We're gonna make it.
I'll say this, and because I heard you say millennials, and I hear this often.
Go ahead. We're gonna wrap it up soon.
Yeah, so I'll be 36 years young on Monday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I didn't know you was that young. Wow. Make me feel old.
Yeah, made me feel old too.
Golly.
I get that often, and that's usually why I never really state my age with anything, because I feel that developmentally, it's a different game, and it depends upon how people process their environment and go through their process. And I think there needs to be a good combination between older and younger generations as far as how we take in information and help. If you want to go even biblically speaking, he calls the old because they know the way and the young because they're strong. And there's a reason why it's a need for combination, because together you can be so much stronger. But the older generation, they've been traumatized by so much.
Yes.
They've gotten this mindset where it's like, we got to push and survive. But then going that so long, they don't have it where it's like, where the young people are taught diversity. But then you get this rebellion and they have no real clue why they're being rebellious. And you got the older generations where they're like shaking their fingers saying, you should know better, look at what they've done. But people can really together understand, okay, we've been through this, we made it stronger, we laid the foundation. The younger generation having more gratefulness for what has gone on, and say, okay, let me take this legacy and build on better, because I've seen what my ancestors gone through. We can end up with these greater things that we so hunger for. So that's what I have to say.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's the thing I do see with your generation, that you all are more open-minded. You're being exposed to more things in the world, technology. You're engaging with people of other races. So I think it's actually a positive, because our people need to make the next transition. But a lot of us, and I work in mental health, so that's why I agree with what the sister was saying, that mental health is a big problem in our community, that in the Black community, that we've been in heavy denial of. And I think a lot of the older generation, we have been traumatized by what happened to us in the past. And I think that's why a lot of us do hold on to issues around race and all these sort of issues, because we have never been able to heal from what happened to us. And a lot of times we sacrificed to make sure that people of your age and younger would not have to go through what we went through, and give you an opportunity. So it's just like, I know for a fact that my mother and father went through things that I could never imagine to sacrifice for me, right? Or my brothers and sisters. So that's why the older generation in general sometimes has this wagging of the finger. You bet, listen to me, because they've been through a hell of a lot that has traumatized them. They have paid a heavy price, and they've never healed. I'll render the mic.
All right. Well, we've come to the end of another show. We actually did a 2-hour show. I want to, Shanira, thank you so much for joining us. It was always a pleasure. Thank you.
Enjoy your birthday.
Thank you all.
Hey, information man, you're not in harm's way out there, are you? Because I know you're on the West Coast, man.
I'm in Northern California, but I've been in contact with people in Southern California, so I think they're going to make it. The weather is really weird down here. Let me ask you a question, Carl. What time do you all normally go live? Because I'm thinking about, I see you have this button here, stream this to your audience. I'm thinking maybe we should do a double cast here.
Yeah.
When do you normally go live?
We
normally go at 7 p.m.
Which is, I'm in the West Coast, so that's what, 2:30 this time? 2:30 West Coast time?
Yeah.
What time?
Is it a 5-hour or 3-hour difference? What is?
I think it's 5 hours, right?
5 hours?
No. 3. You're in the East Coast, so it's a 3-hour difference.
3 hours.
Oh, okay.
3 hours.
So if you go on at 7, you said 7:30?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock your time, which would be 4 o'clock my time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe
4 o'clock. It'll be 4 o'clock your time.
maybe next weekend or something. These discussions are powerful, and I would love my audience to hear, and at the same time for people to also witness your channel and what you guys are talking about over here, because this is powerful. This discussion, I would have loved to have had this discussion on the channel today. This is powerful conversation, and you need to get these sisters back up here and keep this going, as you already have been.
Yeah.
I put
You need them red
Maya
shades if I come
Angelou
back up
of
here.
life
You need
coaching.
what? You need what?
I said I'm gonna need them red shades if I'm coming back up here.
But I'm a drop off though. But yeah, I want to do something like that, because this is powerful conversation. Powerful.
Share it to your
So
audience.
yeah, I'm
I
gonna share it.
to my
Oh,
audience.
definitely. But thank you again for letting me come over.
you're
Great
welcome.
discussion as always. Y'all take care. Your son looks just like you, brother. Look like a complete. We're talking about cloning people these days. He might be a clone of you. He is a clone of you. All right, everybody, take care.
Take care, brother.
All right.
Thanks, man. All right, so we've come to the end, and at the end of every show, we always go do like a round table, and I ask, what have you learned, of anything you want to share before we go? You don't have to, but if you did learn, I want to share anything, please feel free. Tiffany?
Everybody like and share and subscribe. Please make sure you tell everyone it's time. We want to have the conversation. We didn't get to say too much about the young man that was locked up at the garbage can. I just want to say to our parents, and I noticed that was a West Indian father.
Yeah.
And I wondered, did he ever have that talk with him as a Black boy here in America? That you have to be on point when it's dealing with police, cops, or being targeted, because he was targeted. And I would have been a very upset parent if you touched my child when he just went to the garbage can. So we just got to communicate with our children, talk to our children, and tell them what's going on out here, because we can't hide it from them. This is what our world is about. And us as Black people, we are resilient. We have been through so much, and we are still here. And to those white people that think that this world would not function without us, are you serious? You are the ones that brought us over here without permission. We didn't ask you to come and get us. We were chilling, we was listening to music, and we was pumping. We was good until you came over there and you snatched the best up and you brought us over here because you needed us to cultivate your land. Okay, so get your history together. And if you don't believe me, your white fathers wrote it down. So definitely, I love everybody. Thank you to all that's in the chat that watches us all over. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and bless up.
All right. Shanera?
Oh my gosh. I just learned every time I'm on this. Well, this is my second time on the show, but it's just so many things are laughable, but it's important just to have the thought of just to keep going. Don't waste your time on people who are so caught up on frivolous things and just want face value, but go in depth and be sure to understand the importance of pushing up your brother or sister when you do find out things. Make sure we're helpers of one another. Do your best not to separate, because that's already been done so much. And if white people want to talk about where Black people would be, honestly speaking, you wouldn't just have a Black people. We would have much more defined lines in terms of culture. But we've done so much in terms of losing our history. So let's gain it back. Let's learn and learn from that.
Kevin? Anything you want to?
Yeah, man. And, well, first they stole most of our culture. So, I mean, rock and roll, jazz, all the things they love, especially rock and roll, jazz, even country music was started by Black people. So they would have none of the stuff that they love if we weren't here. So the banjo, which I don't think we even listen to banjo anymore, but Black man invented the banjo, so which is an instrument that I think primarily they play now, I think. But yeah, so where would they be without us? Probably not doing too good. So it was a great show. Everybody brought the heat, and next week's show gonna be even stronger. And I hope everybody make it back.
All right. What I always hope for is more Black unity. I know it continues to elude us, but I really, truly hope that someday, 100 years from now, there's not another group of people sitting here saying the same thing over and over again.
Probably will.
I hope not. I hope by that time they have my 20 or 30-story building that's owned by Black people and employing 10,000 Black people going in and out, and it'll just be a beautiful thing for me.
They're waiting for you, Carl. It's for you to build it.
Trust me, if I could, I would. And
if Jay-Z and Oprah and Tyler Perry, with all that money they have between the three people, can't build it, and it's probably not going to happen in our lifetime, bro.
That's part of my point, is that why can't I mean, a lot of these buildings are owned by groups, right? You heard such and such a group owns a building, such and such a group owns another building. Why can't we get all the black people together and start and form a group and just buy stuff and just, you know what I mean? I don't understand it, but I don't have that kind of money, so maybe I'm not the one.
But Magic Johnson, by the way, is buying a lot of stuff, but he has a group of people, business partners, and they just bought a football team.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
So yeah, he bought a football team.
Right.
So, and he owns
places owned by the whites.
And he owns movie theaters, and
right.
Magic Johnson also owns a bunch of Starbucks and stuff like that. So it's, you know, people are invested in some business.
You can't tell people what to do with their money. But before we go, if you're wondering why somebody's getting feedback, is that Cornel West, if you're wondering why the rap music is the way it is, listen to what Cornel West said.
My album Never Forget came out 2007, and we went to a variety of different labels, and they said, we don't want this political crap, we want G-string music.
Somebody from a label said that?
Oh, yeah.
What label? Do you remember the label?
Clive Davis and them.
Wow.
That's who it was.
Wow.
That's who it was. And I said to myself, I didn't say it because, I just listened and taking it in. Well, actually, I said something like, I don't have anything against G-string. Because I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian, but I'm not a Puritan. You know what I mean?
Love a good G-string.
Orgasm has its role and has its place. But when you fetishize that in relation to black people, that's nothing but white supremacy in the musical context. You see. Now, Marvin Gaye is saying what's going on, and let's get it on. That's part of life. Sometimes you need to get it on. Other times you got to find out what's going on. And you got to prepare yourself spiritually, politically, and so forth. But there's no doubt that the spiritual warfare against the younger generation that tries to dumb down the music. I was blessed to write a song with the one and only, the genius Bootsy Collins. We wrote a song called Freedom, F-R-E-D-U-M. The freedom to dumb down the music, to flatten it out. They don't want the stories and the narratives that would tease out the courage and the vision, but just titillation and stimulation.
You think hip-hop has evolved in its 50 years?
It has devolved.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's devolved. Oh, shoot, ain't no doubt about it.
G-string music.
But that goes to show that the music industry is set up to feed us, exactly what we hear, which is, talk about calling, just as he called it, G-string music.
Well, it is, because that's the only thing you be seeing is ass.
Yeah. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about our show. Hit the notification bell so when we go live, you get a notification that we are live. Thanks again to our wonderful guest, Shanera Billups. Thank you so much for stopping by. Kevin, Shanera, everybody, I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you so much.
Love you, Agnes. Y'all be blessed. Stay safe. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Take care. Bye.
Great birthday. All right.
With the knowledge you gain, break away from the chains. We helping you grow the Black Therapy Show. We in a safe space, dealing with the black trauma. We unpacking and inspecting all our baggage and drama. Cause we gotta unite, no more killing each other. It's time to see a new future for my sisters and brothers. You know, with Kevin, Carl, and Tiffany, you'll have an epiphany. We'll give you everything you need to handle the enemy. We'll be giving you empathy, we won't challenge you mentally. The right conversation so you grow exponentially. We built your penitentiaries, we built all your schools. Gave us brainwash education, just making us fools. Hatred was what we got in exchange for love. No more manipulation from my God above. No, it's Carl, Kevin, and Tiffany. Now welcome to the Black Therapy Show.